I shouldn't say it, but today she is 39 years old. Yes. Actually, she's eternal. She's very eternal. There are different degrees of eternality, but she's very eternal. Right. So we had a little kirtan. Yes. That was... Anyway, so we'll have a little more. Well, we'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. It was a nice kirtan, wasn't it? It's really nice. In the background, the motor cars. You know, it is a great blessing that battery-powered cars are coming in more and more. In a year or two, we'll be sitting here. You won't hear a thing. Okay, here we go. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihare Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Stanasismad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Shri Jaganath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Excuse me. Well, devotees and friends, yes, I'm really happy to be here with you all. Nice devotees and friends of our Krishna consciousness movement. And I hope you're all happy in Krishna consciousness. Let's just have a look here. I'm going to eventually read something from one of Srila Prabhupada's books. Anyway, so today, you might be surprised to hear it, but today, among other things, we are doing a housewarming program. We're doing a housewarming program. They've already been here 3 years, so it's already pretty warm. We'll do a housewarming. Some housewarming will do. Yes. And then we're going to say something about Jaganath, Baladev, and Subhadra Devi, who are on the altar here. That's nice. They're very beautiful. They're very beautiful, and they're very merciful. Jaganath, Baladev, and Subhadra. So we'll say something about them, who they are, and why they are, and how they are, and all these types of things. We'll say something about them. So, okay. So here we go. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, and again, I just want to say, I thought that the kirtan of Damodar Gopal Prabhu was very nice. I was listening back there. It was really nice. And, just an interesting little point. I participated in a wedding earlier before I came here. And I was really afraid that we're going to be late. But then the most astonishing, amazing thing happened. You won't believe it I'm serious. You will not believe it. Would you believe it? Are you ready? Fasten your seatbelts. The wedding started on time. I'm sorry, but it's true. And therefore I got here on time. Otherwise I was sure I was going to be late. I just have to walk out, and that wouldn't have been nice. It was a Gujarati wedding, actually. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. So yeah, just by way of housewarming, they've been here 3 years, but we were meant to do a program in May. We had scheduled a program for right here in May, but then I was hospitalized, and it all got a bit dramatic, actually, and so we couldn't do the program. So, and it's not hugely important, but still it's nice. So I'm going to read a verse. It's actually from one of our literatures called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, one of our great previous spiritual authorities, very special person. And I'm just going to read this verse because it's about what they call actually Griha Pravesh. Griha Pravesh means entering the house. I won't read the Sanskrit, it's really complicated Sanskrit. I'll just read the translation. It is Mother Yashoda, the mother of the husband. Is the mother of our husband here? Not here. Okay. So Mother Yashoda says, I have not seen the attractive, shining face of my son in his period of new youth, the late Kishore period, after his childhood. I have not performed the Griha Pravesh of my son when he got married. Oh, my head has been struck with a thunderbolt. So as the mother of, in this case, the groom, Mother Yashoda really feels she should have done something for that housewarming, sort of house welcoming type of program. So, everyone please wish them well, because they deserve it. They're really nice. Okay, so now that we've done a little housewarming, let us read from Chaitanya Charitamrita something about Lord Jaganath, because you see on the altar here, there are the deities. There's actually two sets of the same deities. They're on the top level of the altar. On the top level, those are the deities, the local deities from here. Jaganath, Baladev and Subhadra. Then, on the middle altar right here, that's also Jaganath, Baladev, Subhadra Devi, and they're the deities that have come, the deities of Mother Shamalata, who is the mother of Sachi Devi, who's the lady of the house here. And they're very beautiful, aren't they? But you can see, they look quite extraordinary. You know, I'm sure you've all been in temples before, and on the altar there have been different deities. And usually the deities on the altar in a temple, they look, really, really lifelike. But here, you see these deities, the Jaganath deities, on your left, blackish, is Jaganath. In the center, yellow, is the sister Subhadra. And on my side, I'm mixed up. On my side is Jaganath. In the center is Subhadra. On the other side is Balaram, who's the brother of Jaganath, and the brother also, of course, of Subhadra, who's in the center. But you can see that they don't look, like sort of typical deities. I mean, you can see that they have eyes, they have mouths, but their features, the forms of the bodies are kind of unusual compared to what you would be used to if you frequent the temples around here and there, around Joburg, around Durban. So there's very important history, really important history behind them. I mean, it's really extremely important. That Lord Krishna, he appeared in Mathura. If you know the history a bit, you'd know that Lord Krishna appeared, you could say was born, but we generally don't use this word born, which we use obviously for we were all born at some time in the past as the children of our parents. And so we were born by the usual sort of biological process. But Krishna, we don't say Krishna was born, we say Krishna appeared. Because he wasn't born in the usual way. Krishna was in the womb of his mother. He was in the womb of his mother. But then when the time came, when he decided really that he wanted to come out, then he wasn't born in the usual way. But you know what? Krishna just stepped out. He just stepped out. And when he stepped out, he was fully dressed. How's that? When we came out, we were not fully dressed. And not only was he fully dressed, but you might be astonished to hear this. He had a crown on and jewelry and lots of jewelry and the real thing, real jewelry. And he stepped out, and then you know what he did? He spoke. We can all speak now, we're adults, so at least most of us. And we speak. We're at least quite understandable. Generally we speak okay. But when Krishna came out, he was not even 1 day old. He was not even 1 hour old. He just stepped out and started talking, so he was maybe a minute or something old in those terms. If you calculate age from the time of the actual appearance of the child. So Krishna started talking. And this is in Mathura. Mathura is in current day Uttar Pradesh in India. We were just there. We came back actually 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So we were just right near, a few kilometers from Mathura. And Mathura, Vrindavan, that area, North India, it's what they call the Hindi belt. Everyone speaks Hindi. आप हिंदी बोल सकते हैं? थोड़ा Me too. किंतु लेकिन मेरी हिंदी बहुत खराब है. If you understand that. My Hindi is terrible. Survival Hindi maybe. So and many South Africans from quote unquote Hindi backgrounds, they can speak a bit of Hindi. Mother Ramuna Priya, our birthday girl, she speaks some Hindi, right? Fairly well. Not bad. Yeah. But when Krishna came out, it was the Hindi belt. But he didn't speak Hindi, he spoke Sanskrit. How many of us can speak Sanskrit? It's highly complex language. But Krishna is only 1 minute old, so to speak. And there he is conversing in Sanskrit. It just shows, it goes to show. He's not just one of us. Because, anyway, I wouldn't want to insult Mother Ramuna Priya. But, anyway, your Hindi, something. Yeah. Kitchen Hindi. Combase Hindi. That's usually what it is. This one boy was here. He married my disciple Padmalochani from Durban. I don't know if you remember. He's Indian from Punjab. And I asked him, what do you think about the Hindi of our South African Hindi speakers? And I shouldn't say this actually, but he laughed. And he said, they don't speak Hindi. Anyway. So Krishna stepped out like that, fully dressed and ornamented and started speaking Sanskrit. So it just goes to show he's not an ordinary person. Some people, they think he's just an ordinary, like a historical personality, even like a politician from bygone ages, sometime in the distant past. But Krishna's not like that. He tells in Bhagavad Gita, he tells Arjuna, just early on, it's in the 2nd chapter, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna. Many, many births both you and I have taken together. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. Yeah. So, yeah, Krishna's superhuman at the very least. Superhuman. So he appeared actually not only fully dressed and ornamented and all that, as we said, and not only did he speak, but, my dear devotees and friends, he was adult. He was already fully grown, like at least 20-ish or something like that. Then Krishna, after speaking for some time and like that, then Krishna on the spot transformed himself into the body of a child, little child. Yeah. Anyway, then it's a long story, of course. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the basic story that then the father, Vasudeva, carried him across the river to Gokula, it's called. It's on the other side of the Yamuna River from Mathura, which is now a city. Yeah, Gokula's on the other side, crossed the river, and then left Krishna in his baby form, left him on the other side in Gokula, which was like a village, and left him with Yashoda, who's famous for being generally like the mother figure in Krishna's pastimes, the main mother figure. She had just given birth to a boy, just at the same time, but she'd fallen asleep after the whole childbirth experience, and Vasudeva came and exchanged Krishna. Well, she had given birth to a girl, She had given birth to a girl. Vasudeva exchanged Krishna for the girl and took the girl back to the prison. All the jailers had fallen asleep. The doors had mysteriously opened. That's how he managed to get out. Anyway, it's really a long story. It's an extremely long story. But we're talking about the deities here. That's sort of an important part leading up to these deities. Because Krishna, as the super being, far beyond just people who, like they're very strong or very beautiful or sort of outstanding by today's standards. Krishna is way, way, way beyond that. Krishna's way beyond that. So there he was now. He was left there in Gokula, and he was brought up, at least for the first 11 years or so by Yashoda, Mother Yashoda, and her husband Nanda Maharaj, who was sort of the local king, you could say, king of the cowherds. And Krishna, as he was brought up, Krishna was extremely beautiful. Sometimes when people would see Krishna, he was so beautiful, some of the people would faint. Even like some of big warriors, big tough men sitting on their horses or elephants. When they saw Krishna, his beauty was just so overwhelming and overpowering that they would faint and fall off their horse or even off their elephant, crash, because Krishna's beauty was just so incredibly striking. And devotees and friends, may I ask you, did anyone ever faint when they saw you? Anyone fainted? No? Not so far? Me neither. Maybe out of horror or surprise or something. But we can't imagine. We have no experience of people like this. We have no experience. Even whoever is the most beautiful young woman, Miss World or whatever they might call her, Miss South Africa, or Mr. They normally, Mr. World it's all about muscle power. But, people don't faint when they see Miss World. Because, even though relatively she may be quite outstanding, but she's not that outstanding. Yeah. But, and like I said, we have no experience of someone who's that beautiful or as powerful as Krishna. Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. Actually, for him, that's nothing. But compared to us, that is something. To lift a hill, the hill is still there. It is 23 kilometers around. And people walk around it. People are walking around it today, probably a few thousand people, because it's an extremely famous place of pilgrimage. So, but Krishna lifted it with the little finger of his left hand. He didn't even use both hands to lift a hill 23 kilometers around. He didn't even use both hands. He just somehow put his hand underneath and lifted it like that, and held it for 7 days and 7 nights on the little finger of his left hand. So, who do we know who is that strong? One of our devotees in Mumbai, many years ago in Prabhupada's time, in the early 70s, 50 years ago, he had been following someone who presented himself as being like an avatar, an incarnation of God. In India, even to this day, you get these people. You actually get quite a lot of them. So this particular one, he was also living in Mumbai, and he was claiming to be God. But this devotee, he had not really joined ISKCON. He was still a affiliated with this man and his group, but he was visiting Prabhupada regularly and questioning him and felt he was getting excellent answers from Prabhupada. And he told Prabhupada that this man, whose name I will not mention, he claims to be God. What do you think? And Srila Prabhupada answered that, well, if he was God, that'd be really great. That'd be wonderful. Let me know, I'll come over. I'd like to meet him. But Prabhupada rightly assumed that he was not really God, even though maybe he had a little sort of magical power to some degree. So Prabhupada told him that you tell this so-called incarnation, you ask him, can you lift Govardhan Hill? Because he would have heard of Govardhan Hill. It's extremely famous in India. Can he lift Govardhan Hill like Krishna did? And the man will say no. Then in the man's room was like a big, heavy, hardwood table. So Prabhupada told the man, ask him then, if you can't lift Govardhan Hill on the little finger of your left hand, I mean, you can use both hands if you like, but could you at least lift this table with the little finger of your left hand? And the table weighed, I don't know, a big solid table. It must have weighed, I don't know, 50 or 60 or 70 kilos or something. And Prabhupada said, see what the man says. So this fellow went back and asked the so-called avatar, if you're God, can you lift Govardhan Hill? And the man said, no. And so the devotee-to-be said, well, at least can you lift this table on the little finger of your left hand? And the man said, that's ridiculous. And then our devotee friend walked out and never went back. Yeah. So Krishna is so beautiful. And he's so powerful. And he's so knowledgeable. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedaham samatichani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani chabudani mam tu veda na kaschana. That I know everything that has happened in the past. I know everything that is happening at present. And I know all things that are yet to come. But me, nobody knows. Yes. So this is Krishna. There's so many things we could say like that. But this is just to introduce some ideas and sort of give you food for thought. So that beautiful, extraordinarily beautiful and just outstanding in so many ways, Lord Krishna, he has assumed this form because Jaganath on my side, that is Krishna. And Balaram, his brother, on the far side, on your left side, that's Balaram. And both of them generally, if you see pictures like in our main temple in Vrindavan in India, you see Krishna and Balaram together. And they look like such perfectly formed human figures. Even, if you've been in our temple in Chatsworth, in Durban, I'm sure many of you have, there's a deity of Srila Prabhupada, life-size deity of Prabhupada on the left side of the door as you enter. So one day, it's happened a few times, but one time it happened to me. I was in the temple room there, and some elderly man, probably older than I am now, so really elderly man. I saw him bow down in front of Prabhupada, then he was there for like a minute or half a minute at least. And then he came over and spoke to me. And he said, you know, Swami won't speak to me. I asked him a question. He wouldn't answer. He was a bit upset. Swami was the deity of Srila Prabhupada. Really. And it's happened a few times with elderly people whose eyesight is not good. Yeah, why will Swami not speak to me? Because he's a deity. So generally those deities are very lifelike. Very, very lifelike. But in this case we have deities who are, you know, there's some features, recognizable human-like features, but you know, you don't get people who look like this. You don't get them. So the story, what happened was that Lord Krishna, I explained, oops, you know what that means? It means the battery's running out in the microphone. Anyway, let's carry on. So yeah, Krishna appeared and these things happened, and he sort of grew up. But then eventually he left. He left Vrindavan, he left that area. He went to Mathura. It's not far away, but it's a different town. It's a little different place. So he went there. And then after some years, he went to Dwarka on the west coast, sort of northwest coast of India. Dwarka is still there, famous place of pilgrimage. And then Krishna lived there for the rest of the time that he was present on the planet. So in Vrindavan, there are many of his devotees. Krishna is such a captivating, extraordinary person. Not just very beautiful, but also just a very enchanting person in terms of his personality, his character, and a very affectionate person. So therefore, in Vrindavan, there were so many thousands who were devoted to Krishna. They loved Krishna. And when Krishna left Vrindavan, they were just thrown into a great ocean of separation. I mean, we've all experienced separation. We've all lost some family member or someone who was dear to us, parents or whoever. We've all lost some people who are very close to us. And you feel it. You feel it generally when your parents pass away, or, you know, particularly if like one of your children passes away, young, oh, you feel it. But when Krishna left Vrindavan, all those devotees of his in Vrindavan, they felt the separation so much that there's one prayer that when I'm separated from Krishna, a moment means like a second basically, or even a fraction of a second. It feels like 12 years or more. Maybe you've had experience when things are going really well, then there's even a saying, time flies. But when when things are going really badly, did you ever notice, maybe it's Friday afternoon and you want to get out from work, and time just seems to slow down. So our devotees, when Prabhupada in New York in 1966 held our first Krishna Janmashtami festival, none of the devotees had done it before or knew what was involved. But Prabhupada said, yes, now we'll fast till midnight. No eating till midnight. And the devotees had never done that. But they thought, yeah, okay, we'll fast till midnight. And fasting till midnight is okay until about 2 in the afternoon or so. And then it starts catching up with you. What to speak of when midnight comes. So, but at 7 o'clock in the evening, Prabhupada told the devotees, okay, let us go down to the temple room and I will read the pastimes of Krishna to you till midnight. So it was maybe 7. They went down and Prabhupada started reading in Sanskrit with some translations, but a lot of it was just Sanskrit. And the devotees didn't understand literally a word. And they're sitting there, fasting, feeling progressively more hungry. There's a saying in Russia, where I used to go before things sort of heated up a bit. Hunger is the best chef. Did you ever hear that word before? Hunger. When you're really hungry, even something you just don't like, it tastes great. So they're fasting, and this one devotee told us, he was watching the clock. And I don't know if it was, maybe it was an early quartz clock, but you could see the seconds, 1 second, tick, tick, tick. He was watching the second hand, waiting for midnight. And he told me he could have sweared on the Bhagavad Gita or on whatever you like, sworn. The second hand stopped. Tick. Then it stopped. And then a little later, tick. And then it stopped. And then a little later, tick. Yeah. So anyway, but that verse I mentioned says, when we're separated from Krishna, we feel the separation, so that every second feels like years. So yes, but then Krishna left, and they're thrown into a great ocean of separation, incredible separation. Like I said, we've all felt separation, but not on that level. Really not on that level. So then, many years later, means maybe 60 years later, long time later, they met Krishna again. They met Krishna in a place called Kurukshetra. It's also where Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if any of you have been to Kurukshetra. It's just north of Delhi, 250 kilometers or something. So they met there. It was a solar eclipse. A solar eclipse. Did you see the eclipse a few weeks ago? Did you see it here? It was a solar eclipse. We saw it. In Vrindavan, we saw it. I photographed it, actually. Solar eclipse. So this was a total solar eclipse. The moon coming in front of the sun. And, I mean, again, it's a long story, but Krishna and all his associates from Dwaraka on the west coast, they all went to Kurukshetra. And all the devotees from Vrindavan, they also went to Kurukshetra because when there's an eclipse, particularly a very big eclipse, like a total eclipse, then at least there's a tradition that you should go to a sacred place, and where there's either a sacred river like the Ganges or a sacred lake. At that place, Kurukshetra, there's a big lake, very big lake, Brahmakund. And it's a very, very, very famous place of pilgrimage. So many, millions of people went there for the solar eclipse. So Krishna was there, coming from Dwaraka. The devotees of Vrindavan were there, who hadn't seen him for 60 years, and they met again. And it was really, it was quite a reunion. Quite a reunion. We really haven't got the language to properly describe the emotions which are exchanged. So, yes, so after the reunion, well, Krishna was there with his queens of Dwaraka. So, the queens had heard about the devotees of Vrindavan, how much love they have for Krishna, more than any other devotees. So the queens wanted to learn about that love. And when they saw Krishna meet the devotees of Vrindavan and the emotions that were displayed, they were just amazed. They'd never seen such affection before. So they asked one devotee, Rohini, who had been in Vrindavan when Krishna was there, can you explain what it was like when Krishna was in Vrindavan? So she said, okay, sure, but let's go to a quiet spot out of the way so no one will see us, and I'll explain. So all Krishna's queens suddenly disappeared. They went around a little out of the way, and Rohini was explaining that when Krishna was in Vrindavan, this happened and that happened, and these different exchanges happened. And all the queens were just astonished. But then Krishna, the husband, thought, where are my wives? What happened? They disappeared. So he went to look for them. And then he saw them in the distance, around the corner, out of the way. He saw them with Rohini, and Rohini was talking to them, and they were just enraptured. And Krishna thought, what is going on here? So Krishna sneaked up to listen. And while he's listening to Rohini talking about his pastimes in Vrindavan, amazing pastimes, and finally the pastime of the rasa dance, when he danced with Gopis. And when Krishna heard that, listening to all these things, he's remembering Vrindavan, and becoming more and more affected by it. But when he heard of the rasa dance, he became overwhelmed, completely overpowered. And his arms partially retracted into his body, and his legs also. And his face transformed into this face. Big, wide eyes, just amazement. Huge smile, because it's just so wonderful, incredibly wonderful. He transformed into the form of Jaganath. Then his brother Balaram was wondering, where did Krishna go? What happened to Krishna? So he went looking, and then he saw, oh, there's the wives and Rohini. And look, he saw Jaganath, Krishna. Is that Krishna? But what happened to Krishna? So he came sneaking up, and he listened, and he heard these pastimes. And then Balaram became totally overwhelmed, and he transformed into that shape which is on your left there. And similar features, arms partially retracted, big, amazed eyes, huge, gigantic smile. And then Subhadra, their sister, was wondering, where did my brothers go? What are they up to? So she went there, and she heard these things, and her arms totally retracted, completely retracted. Yeah, and so that was the first time Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra in these types of forms were manifested. After the whole recitation of Rohini, and after it was all finished, they changed back into their regular forms, human-like, actual human-like forms. But then, you know what happened? Something else happened. And you got to listen to this. That the eclipse finished, and all the religious ceremonies connected with the eclipse finished. Because eclipses, believe it or not, eclipses are considered inauspicious. They have bad effects on people and everything. So anyway, it was all finished. Time to go home. So Nanda Maharaj, the king of the cowherds, the king of the devotees from Vrindavan, he told all the devotees of Vrindavan, okay, let's go. Let's pack up and go. And they said, sure, let's get ready and go. But then the gopis, the cowherd girls, of course they're cowherd ladies by now, they said, listen, we'll pack up, but first of all, let us say goodbye to Krishna, and we'll go tomorrow morning. We'll go tomorrow morning, no problem. So Nanda Maharaj agreed, okay. So they went and said goodbye to Krishna, came back, stayed overnight. Next morning, Nanda Maharaj says, right, let's pack up and go. And they all say, yes, let's pack up and go. But just one thing, could we just say goodbye to Krishna one more time? And we'll go after lunch. No problem, we'll go after lunch. And Nanda Maharaj said, all right, sure. So they said goodbye, came back, had lunch, and Nanda Maharaj told them, all right, let's go. Let's go, we need to go. And they said, right, let's do it. Let's go. But just one thing. Just let us say goodbye to Krishna one more time. And we will definitely go tomorrow morning. Don't worry. We will go. So Nanda Maharaj agreed. They went and said goodbye to Krishna again. Stayed overnight. Next morning, Nanda Maharaj says, right, he's getting a little firmer. Let's go. We must go. And the devotees of Vrindavan said, right, yes, we must go. But just one thing. just let us say goodbye to Krishna just one more time. And we will definitely go after lunch. So, you get the idea. This went on for 3 months. 3 months. Because Krishna is such a person. And finally, after 3 months, Nanda Maharaj said, listen, we are going, and that's it. And he just bundled them up. And then they started going. But then they said, hang on a minute, hang on. So they went and they grabbed Krishna and Balaram and Subhadra and put them on their chariots, tied ropes to the chariots, and pulled their chariots all the way from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. It is more than 300 kilometers. And pulling by hand and singing and dancing as they went. So as this is happening, and there's just so much happiness and ecstasy, Krishna is coming back to Vrindavan. Krishna became overwhelmed again, and he transformed into the Jaganath form. And Balaram and Subhadra, the same thing happened to them. Because there was just so much happiness in the reunion with the devotees after many years of separation. So much happiness. So, therefore, Jaganath, Baladev, and in the middle, Subhadra, they are Krishna and Balaram and Subhadra, their sister, in that ecstasy of being reunited with their devotees after many years of separation. Therefore, this form of Krishna and Balaram and Subhadra, but particularly, we tend to focus on Jaganath, Krishna himself. This form is an extremely important, famous, and dearly loved form of Krishna, even though he looks, a bit extraordinary. Fairly extraordinary, isn't it? But so many devotees, they just love Jaganath. Even, we had a funny experience. It was around 1990. We had a center in Yeovil, and we were doing preaching programs at Wits University every week. And they had the rag day or rag week, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And on the final, I think, Saturday, they have the procession. So we took part in the procession. We had a big truck, a flatbed truck. And on the back, one of the devotees made a Jaganath more than 6 feet high. I mean, really big, the whole width of the truck, and probably 8 feet high. And we put him on the back of the truck, facing backwards, down over the end of the truck, like with his back to the cab where we were sitting driving, facing back. And the students were totally drunk. I mean, it was crazy, actually. But they got so attached to Jaganath. They were running around trying to collect money while drinking more. And then, hundreds of them would come running around, and they named Jaganath Jaggi. And they were waving, Jaggi, Jaggi! And off they'd go and collect some more money and drink some more and come back, Jaggi, Jaggi. Really quite something. So even though he looks extraordinary, and you might think that, how could people take this like really seriously? But they do. They really do. Yeah. They take Jaganath and Baladev and Subhadra really seriously. Because he stands for that. He's demonstrating that. The happiness of reunion. The joy of being reunited with someone or ones who you really love and who really love you, but you just haven't been able to see for many years. So therefore Jagannath's very popular, extremely popular. And if you understand what it's all about, then, and you spend enough time looking at Jaganath, then you realize, wow, he really is amazing, actually. He's just absolutely amazing. So there you go, devotees and friends. That was a little Griha Pravesh. I mean, really little, but it's okay. It's all right. It's good. And we will do battery-powered motor car prayers. And maybe next year it'll be illegal to drive petrol-powered motor cars at Kyalami. Listen to that. How could it be fun? I don't know. It's a bit beyond me. But different people have different attractions. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Jaganath Baladev